I've done £10,000, I've done £5,000, and today we look at the best looking cars that you can buy for under £2,000. Do hit the like button if you want to see more videos like this. Subscribe as well if you're new. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. OG fans of the channel might know I did a comparison video between my super cheap VW Polo and a more expensive Honda CR-Z many years ago about which might be the better first car. While the price of the CR-Z have dipped a lot since then, and there's no disputing from a looks perspective, the Honda CR-Z is probably the better looking car, which definitely stands out on the roads today. It's also more economical with its 1.5 litre inline-4 engine combined with electric power to produce 122 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 9.6 seconds. Nothing rapid, but a reminder, this video is about looks, not performance. It was the spiritual successor to the also pretty CRX, and its name actually reflects the design, as CR stands for Compact Renaissance, referring to this being a renaissance in design for small hatchbacks. It actually looks good on the interior too, quite sporty with those pretty unusable rear seats, and the reliability hasn't been too bad outside of weak door handles and most notably battery issues. This is the most expensive car on the list, starting at our 2k limit, which will get you a 2011 model with high mileage. I'm heavily biased towards good looking estates, given my first car was an estate, and not many brands do wagons as well as Volvo. I thought about putting the C40 into this video, but we had it in the 10k one, and personally I actually prefer the looks of the V50 R-Design anyway, though you may have a different opinion. Either way, it comes with a 2 litre inline-4 diesel engine in D3 spec, which makes 147 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 9.3 seconds. Interestingly, this car actually shares its platform and some engine options with the second generation Ford Focus, despite looking so different. It looks pretty boring in the standard specs, but in R-Design I really do rate it, with the more aggressive body kit and the 5-spoke alloys that look super clean. It's also obviously the most practical car on this list, and I think with some tasteful mods you could make one of these look even cooler. They're listed anywhere from around £1,000, and double that will get you a high mileage 2010 model. Leaks are known from that diesel block, and there are some known clutch master cylinder issues. Hyundai have only recently really gotten into making performance cars for the road, despite being involved in the World Rally Championship back in the early 2000s. They did however make a more grand touring inspired, cheap and accessible sports car, the Hyundai Cpay, which for the money really isn't bad looking, and is a car that I've seen young drivers getting as their first or second car, a bit different to a Corsa or Clio. There were a few engine options, including most cheaply a 2 litre inline-4 block, making 141 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 9 seconds, so not quite the speeds to match the sporty looks. This is actually the second generation Coupe, and it got a lot of respect in the world of automotive journalism, as people actually roguely compared the aesthetics to the Ferrari 456, which I don't quite see, but for the sake of bolstering my point in this video, I'll agree with. These start at around £1,200, and 2k is enough for a 2008 model with high mileage. Electrics are the key issue with them, as well as rotting brake pipes. On a similar vibe, we have the Toyota Celica, though what makes this car so much cooler is Need for Speed Underground. This was almost always the first car I would own whenever I started a new story mode on that game on PlayStation 2, and it was a car that lent itself to some max power style modifications both in-game and in real life. In terms of engine though, it's not like a crazy turbo job, it's just a 1.8 litre inline-4 with variable valve timing, making 140 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 8.7 seconds, the same block you'll find in the Yaris T Sport. This comes from the 7th and final Celica generation, following on from multiple cool shapes. The 6th gen is my personal favourite because of its rallying pedigree and the story behind its cheating turbo situation though. The 7th gen does still look pretty cool, particularly in GT spec where we've got some more aggressive looks around the front end in particular. £1,000 is enough to get into one of these, and 2k gets you a 2004 model with high mileage. And reliability of that 1.8 is genuinely pretty good, though rust is known. From JDM boy racer max power vibes to something much more traditionally beautiful, more refined looking and more grown up, the Alfa Romeo GTV and Spider, both of which are absolutely stunning looking alpha sports cars that offer a cheap route into classic car ownership. I've been to the London Classic Car Show multiple times now, and I've seen the best example of these already on display despite not actually even being that old. There was a V6 engine option, but for our price you'll only get a 2 litre twin spark inline-4, makes 150 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 8.2 seconds, so we're starting to get at least a little bit quicker. Those beautiful looks were penned by Pininfarina, hence the beauty, but more specifically, the same man that designed the Ferrari Testarossa, which is pretty cool. However much I love the looks of the GTV, the Spider with the roof down is just stunning, and the interior is beautiful too. It's just a shame that they're known for so much rust. They'll run you around £1,000 at the bottom end, and double that will get you a 1999 model with high mileage, the oldest model on this list. Now I want to set you guys a challenge as part of this video. I found 10 cars here, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. What is the best looking car that you can buy for under £2,000? Let me know in the comments down below, and also, if you're one of the 77% of people that haven't subscribed, do consider subscribing for 2 videos every single week. I've always been a fan of the mid-2000s BMWs with their quite muscular designs, and the BMW Z4 was certainly a muscular replacement for the outgoing Z3. It definitely looks better in coupe spec, but you're unlikely to get one within our price range, so we'll have to make do with the convertible, which still looks lovely with the roof down. With that convertible roof, get one in good condition, because if it's old and tattered, it can really impact the looks. You'll likely get a 2-litre inline-4 example for our price range, which puts out 150 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 7.9 seconds, and it's rear-wheel drive, so you might be able to have a little bit of back-out action in the rain. The designer went on to have a super interesting career working for Chris Bangle and Adrian van Hooydonk, both famous BMW designers, and became the director of design at Rolls-Royce in 2021. These are listed anywhere from around £1,250, and £2,000 is enough for a high-mileage 2005 model. Rear springs, brake lines, and misfires are the key known problems on them though. The Mercedes SLK has often been badged as a hairdresser's car, and whether that's fair or unfair as a label, I'll let you decide. What is a fact though is that it's probably the closest looking Mercedes to the McLaren SLR, as though the SL is there too, somehow the SLK really does look like a baby SLR in the right spec at the right angles. And the reason why that's the case is because the designer was the same man that designed the SLR, as well as more recently the Project One. Given the SL wasn't designed by him, the point of this being the true baby SLR is bolstered, even if it's not quite as performant, with its 1.8-litre inline-4 and SLK 200 spec, which puts out 160 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 7.6 seconds. Just make sure you got on with the AMG stylings, as it makes them look so much more striking. That hardtop convertible roof has sometimes also caused trouble, but it'll be nice to cruise around with in both summer and winter. £1,500 will get you into one of these, and £2,000 gets you a high mileage model from 2000. On to the top 3 now, and let's start with the poor man's Bentley, otherwise known as the Chrysler 300C, which somehow remains a pretty striking saloon or estate today. Despite being an estate guy, I do think it looks a little bit clunky nowadays, whereas the saloon does actually look pretty good still, so much so that my wife, who's not into cars, was admiring one the other day, thinking it was significantly newer and more expensive than it actually is. It's also got the largest engine on the list, a 3-litre V6 turbo diesel block, making 215 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 7.4 seconds, which honestly isn't bad for such an unassuming basic spec. It shares many parts with Mercedes and was designed by a set of pretty acclaimed designers, one of which became the CEO of SRT for a time, and one of which designed the Mark I Audi TT concept car before becoming head of design for VW of America. These start at around £1,600, and £2,000 will get you a 2007 model with high mileage. Electrical and transmission problems are the most common ones I could find on forums, unfortunately. Taking second on the list, we have a car with a very checkered reliability record, as well as a reasonable cult following, the Mazda RX-8, which has a bunch of quirky features that set it apart from many other cars out on the roads. It of course hasn't had the same impact as the RX-7, and rightfully so. The RX-7 is cooler, better looking, more iconic, and basically better in every way as a car person, but the RX-8 still does look pretty interesting within our 2K price range. These come with a strange engine, a rotary block that makes 189 brake horsepower, taking the car to 60 in 7 seconds, and the biggest issue is that it's quite a skill to be able to work on rotary blocks if they do go wrong, so you may need to make friends with a specialist. I love those wrong way rear doors like a Rolls-Royce, and the interiors too are actually pretty decent for the age of this car. It's just a shame about the reliability. They'll run you around £1,000 at the bottom end, and double that will get you 2006 model with 60,000 miles on the clock. Taking the top spot on this list, we have one of the most iconic shapes and badges in modern motoring, the Mark I Audi TT, a car that was originally referred to as a bubble car with its more late 90s, early 2000s fluid design language, and seemed to only become sharper throughout its run. In part, of course, that was thanks to the addition of a rear spoiler, which helped the car to actually handle well at high speeds, with examples of spoilerless models going haywire on motorways. The best engine you might just about find within our price range is the 1.8-litre turbocharged inline-4 BAM block that makes 221 brake horsepower, taking it to 60 in 6.4 seconds, quite decent for the age. As the TT nameplate has now been retired, I reckon this is a surefire future classic, but do watch out as the cheapest examples are likely not to have been the most well looked after, and they're known for coil packs failing, water leaked, and failing electrics. £1,000 will get you into one of these, and double that will get you a high mileage 2005 model. If you've made it this far and haven't already, do hit subscribe for 2 videos every single week. Huge thanks for watching anyway, as well as to the patrons. Click on screen for another video about some great looking cheap cars.